Fox News alert on a potentially very dangerous development in Syria. The Trump administration saying the regime may be changing the way they're using the weapons that they have. Olivier Knox is chief Washington correspondent for Yahoo News. You were in a background briefing today by the administration. What did you learn?
Well, thank you, Dana. Two of the senior administration officials were describing the way that Bashar Assad has continued to use chemical weapons in the aftermath of that American airstrike in last April. And what these officials described to us was an evolving situation in which the Assad regime has moved away from barrel bombs, sort of clumsy weapons dropped from helicopters, and towards using chemical weapons on shells and with mortars. The really interesting part, though, is they were talking about what they described as a shift from sarin gas towards chlorine, and they said that that suggests that the Assad regime isn't just using hidden stockpiles. They may be reconstituting an actual production program.
I assume that they didn't indicate any sort of action that we might be taking.
Well, they talked a lot about what they described as a full-court diplomatic press to get the international community, and especially Syria's patron, Russia, to crack down on the Assad regime, convince the Assad regime to make a political decision not to use chemical weapons. But they did, of course, as every administration does, reserve the right to use military force if needed.
Oh, wait, so then the Russian spy chief who was here to see the CIA, they were presumably talking about this.
So I asked about that, and you know, it's the triumph of my optimism over my experience. I asked officials to describe private CIA meetings. They wouldn't say yes, they wouldn't say no. They said that this is a full court press by the administration to get the international community, especially Russia, to convince Assad to stop doing this.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're here today. I also wanted to ask you about something that that piqued my interest during the State of the Union address when President Trump talked about this. Watch.
I am asking Congress to pass legislation to help ensure American foreign assistance dollars always serve American interests and only go to friends of America, not enemies of America.
I understand why he would want that. I think American people would want that. But is that actually practical?
Well, it all comes down, Dana, to how you define a friend. If I told you, for example, that the Obama administration pushed about $3 billion a year to a country that regularly and aggressively spies on the United States, you might be shocked. Well, that just describes Israel, for example. How you define a friend is really important. People who specialize in foreign aid will tell you it's all about U.S. interests. You don't give money just to get liked. One of the biggest challenges, of course, is Pakistan, which successive administrations have described in terms of frustration, if not anger. You know, is Pakistan a frenemy? Are they doing enough to crack down on extremist groups that target Afghan and American forces in Afghanistan? But the reality is successive administrations have also said, look, if we don't help the Pakistani government to stay stable, what's going to happen to their nuclear arsenal? Can we really risk the possibility that the regime there falls and all of a sudden we have a nuclear-armed state in a state of chaos? And the answer's been no.
And I believe that passage that we just played for you from the president's speech came after he talked about his decision to move the United States Embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. But if we were to then follow on to the logic, then we would have some problems in the region with not just Pakistan, but countries like Egypt.
And Afghanistan and Jordan, sort of major American partners. Basically, 4 or I think 5 out of the top 6 aid recipients, excepting Israel, voted against the United States at the UN. So yeah, that would pose a problem. And again, this is not about making the Jordanians just like us for the sake of liking us. It's about keeping an ally stable, especially in the case of Jordan, one that has taken in hundreds of thousands of Syrian refugees.
Well, we'll see if Congress moves on legislation. We'll check back in with you. Olivier Knox, thank you.